One safety in the country. What was it about Alabama?
LSU Tigers, number one. Go Tigers.
In the next 4 years, I'm going to Denver University.
Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
We are here today for the Thursday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D Squared, Rudy Armand. Big topic today is going to be Tennessee baseball. They are one of the most dangerous two seeds out there. They are one of 10 teams from the Southeastern Conference that is going to NCAA play that will start tomorrow. All the action starts on Friday. Now, the Women's College World Series is actually getting underway at 11 a.m. today. And on our sister station on ESPN 97.7 The Zone, if you were listening to Talking Ball this morning, you heard the outstanding Crimson Tide Sports Network color analyst for softball, Gray Robertson. He joined us for a few minutes to preview this Alabama-Tennessee matchup. Great insight from Gray. He and Tom Canterbury, and you heard Tom on the show earlier this week. Tom, he and Gray will be on the call starting probably about 10:55 pregame. But Alabama and Tennessee live from Oklahoma City on our sister station. So if you haven't downloaded the ESPN 97.7 The Zone app, so many of you have, but if you have not, do so you can hear Gray and Tom. And then download our Blitz Sports Radio app so you can be listening to this show. So many of you are, but those that please download the app so you can listen to it on your phone, in your car, everywhere. The Blitz Sports Radio has been going strong since late July. We were almost on our 1-year anniversary. And we've been doing this show from 9 to 10 a.m., the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. Really enjoy, everybody's support. Really enjoy our sponsor, Alumni Hall, alumnihall.com. Please go check them out at the Bridge Street Town Center. They have moved from their longtime location just down from the Apple Store to temporarily until August. They are going to be next to Belk. Then they will move to their new digs next to Buckle and have even more square footage, add Tennessee to the repertoire. But right now they are your king and your home for Alabama and Auburn paraphernalia. For all those that need a Father's Day present coming up in June, if you need that graduation gift, birthday present, please go see Andy and the crew over there at Alumni Hall. They are hiring. They do a great job. They have a great website, also alumnihall.com. They have the Hall Pass Rewards program. They do a lot of great things with social media. They had a Memorial Day sale just where they had 20% off and free shipping. They do a lot of these flash sales if you're a part of their social media and on their email list. And, of course, if you need that gift, and if it's not Alabama or Auburn, they can take care of it. Go to alumnihall.com. They have very reasonable shipping. And if you spend $100, it's free shipping. And with their Hall Pass Rewards, for every $150, you get 10 free bucks, and you can stack those, and I certainly have done so. So we appreciate their sponsorship, and we appreciate everyone for supporting us. And again, today the big topic going to be Tony Vitello and the Tennessee Volunteers. Tony's done a great job since coming over from Dave Van Horn with the Arkansas program. I know he's received some heat because, of Tennessee's quick rise in baseball, and he's one of the more, I guess, interesting and eccentric personalities in the league. Very aggressive guy, but he's done a great job at Tennessee. He helped our good friend Jordan Beck from Hazel Green become a very high draft pick last year, and a guy that I think is going to end up in the major leagues with the Colorado Rockies. The third baseman for them this year has been Zane Denton, who transferred from Alabama, but has had a really good year for the Vols. The Vols still have a lot of arms, a lot of talent, and a lot of people think, even though Clemson, I think, has won something like 16 in a row and as hot as any team in college baseball and won the ACC tournament, a lot of people still think that Tennessee's got a shot in that regional. Clemson's the number 4 national seed. If they wanted, ironically, they could potentially match up with Auburn in the Supers. But Tennessee has really picked it up the second half of the season after having a historic year last year, winning the regular season and SEC tournament and the regional in Knoxville. Now they lost to Link Jarrett, who's now the head coach at Florida State, in trying to turn the Seminoles program back around. But Florida State upset Tennessee in the Supers and went on in winning it in 3 games to go to Omaha, but Tennessee fell a little short after getting to Omaha the year before. But it's certainly been a big turnaround for Tennessee baseball, and Tony Vitello and his staff have been done great work in what they've been able to reestablish Tennessee as one of the top programs in the Southeastern Conference and in the country, much like when Rod Delmonico had it rolling with Todd Helton and all those guys, and Chris Burke in the late to mid 90s, or mid to late 90s, pardon me, into the early 2000s. Tennessee under Rod Delmonico was very, very good back in those days. Went to Omaha a few times, didn't win the national championship, but certainly had a great program, and we know Todd Helton, what he did in the major leagues. Chris Burke, after a major league career, a big part of SEC Network and the national coverage of college baseball as well. We've also had him on Talking Ball in the past on ESPN 97.7 The Zone. But we wanted to bring you some of Tony Vitello, who spoke to the media yesterday and previewed this Clemson Regional, where Tennessee is going to be on the road toward, and probably already in Clemson, South Carolina, as it's going to be one of the, still a tough field, even though Clemson is as hot as any team in the country, no doubt about it. The draw is interesting. Because even though they're the number 4 national seed, you get Tennessee, one of the stronger 2s. You get a Charlotte team that's kind of a Cinderella story as a 3. And then the Lipscomb Bison, who certainly won the automatic bid there. So Lipscomb winning their league and did a great job winning the Atlantic Sun. And getting into the NCAA tournament. They're a very underrated program. They've played Alabama and Auburn in the past, played them very tough in the past. Lipscomb has beaten Alabama, so Lipscomb's going to be probably a dangerous 4 seed, though you'd have to think Clemson has the edge there. But Tennessee and going to match up with Charlotte, and if they win, what a matchup that could be as a 1 versus 2 on Saturday. But we're going to hear from Tony Vitello now as he is going to preview this Clemson Regional that Tennessee is a part of.
First of all, being paired up with the Clemson Regional, talk about that. Number 2, success has been hard to come by on the road this season. Is the dynamic a little different now, not facing just 1 team, but 3 teams?
Yeah, it's certainly a different dynamic. It's a 4-team tournament. It's very similar to this year had a different quirk to it. We played at Grand Canyon. We played at 3 different sites. But I believe our first year here was Pensacola. Or I guess it was our second year. Some of those tournaments we've gone to in Round Rock, it's 4 teams, it's 1 site, and it's a fun environment. Everyone's trying to be the best team. So our job is just to kind of manage the things that we can and try and be the best team in each of those categories, whether it be as small as, just your time in the cage being valuable, or body language, handling adversity, whatever you want to bring up. And then with this team in particular, and you talking about being on the road, I think there's some confidence in the back pocket of our guys that they've been at 3 of the most tradition-based SEC programs in the history of the conference on the road, seen what that looks like, experienced it, some good, some bad, and then ultimately kind of put the pieces of the puzzle to win a road series against South Carolina, who's hosting their own regional. So again, I think there's confidence through the adversity part of it, of having to just go through it, but then also parallel to our teams evolving and slightly, improving day in and day out, they improved to the point where they were able to win, again, not just on the road, but against one of the best teams in the country.
Ben, Ryan, and then Eric. Tony, you talked to Hoover about how time off can be a good thing if you get put out early in Hoover. I guess in hindsight now, reflecting after a week and a half off, just you feel even more strongly about that? Where do you feel like your guys are after having some time off?
Yeah, we'll look back on this year, regardless of how things go moving forward, and a big theme will be illnesses or sickness. And I don't know what it is. I know other people have experienced it, but I think we've experienced it to the max. It started in the fall and has not stopped. And, Cal Stark came back yesterday for the first day after a couple days of being sick. And if we would have stayed in Hoover for a maximum amount of days, there would have been several days where guys were not available. And so it allowed for those guys to recover and maybe avoided other guys from getting sick, if that makes sense. They've been allowed to call it rest their immune system. I'm certainly not Dr. Klink, but also just rest in general. And you see guys bouncing around with a little bit more energy. And then for us, as we strategize with our bullpen and also just kind of getting the pitching thing sorted, I think some guys, had been pushed pretty good, and we're starting to feel a little bit sore. So those guys almost get to reset the way the season will reset. I don't know how they do it on the scoreboard, but I believe the batting averages will be 0. It's a new opening day. Like I said, it's a 4-team tournament. It's a part of the season, and yet it's separate. And so one thing that we'll be able to do is almost kind of have that physical and mental feeling like it's opening day because of that gap between our last game and the first game against Charlotte.
Ryan, have y'all decided what y'all are going to do starting pitching-wise Friday night?
No, and that would just be based off, we haven't completed today's practice schedule, which would involve some bullpens and things like that. I don't think we plan to reinvent the wheel or anything. We started to really kind of have a feel for what roles our guys were going to have. The rain delay against Kentucky created a situation we had patiently waited for all year long with Halverson. And then again, rain has followed us everywhere. At South Carolina meant that it made no sense to try and push Lindsey. The tournament starts on Tuesday. A lot of those guys throw Thursday and then Tuesday, and it made no sense to do that with Lindsey. So Halverson got a start out of the deal. So whether it be he or Xander, we know we got a couple extra guys in our back pocket, and then about everybody on our team has relieved, at some point in time with this program.
And with Lindsey coming from Charlotte, is there any advantage or disadvantage for him there with kind of that familiarity if you were to face him?
There's been some time between there, similar with, Austin Knight, who everybody here was a fan of. Guys have swapped programs due to the portal and junior college stuff like that. But there's been some time, not just, between tenures, but also the start of this year and the end of this year. That just kind of shows you how much one team or one individual can change. So there's maybe a little bit something there, but I think when play ball is said across the country on Friday for all these games, these kids grow up and they probably shouldn't be worried about Omaha when you're playing in a regional, because that's a few weekends away. But that's what everyone's going to get wrapped up in, and everyone's going to have the most energy in the dugout in the first inning. And again, that's every team. And they're going to be wrapped up in how do we win. So storylines can be fun. I don't know that there's that many in our regional, but they kind of go to the wayside, I think, for coaches and players once the game starts.
Eric, Casey, and then Vince.
Tony, on starting pitching, obviously you have your 3 guys who have been going, but you have a couple other ones who can come in and give you 5 innings, spot start, whatever. You have a lot of options. Do you build your roster, recruiting, transfer portal, all that type of stuff for this time of the year to have all those options kind of moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with a guy the other day on the phone, and he used the word stable, and it's kind of nice to feel like you got a lot of thoroughbreds in the stable. I think we've kind of been, kind of multi-purpose in recruiting. We've maybe hit on some guys that were guys everybody in the league wanted. Then there's also been some guys that Coach E and Coach Anderson just had a good eye for. And then I mentioned the name Coach Anderson. He, Q, and Woody work with the pitchers way more than I'm ever around those guys at all. And that's a pretty good triumvirate, if I can use, I think it's a Roman word or Latin or something like that. But that's a pretty good trio right there. So you're going to end up producing some guys that either were already good, they get better, or some guys that maybe were under the radar and they improve as well. So it makes for a good group each year. But you do want to have a vision like you've got depth. If something happens or somebody changes a role, you got a guy are prepared right there. And, we've seen it in the Fall World Series here the last couple of years when it's just our team. You got 2 guys going head-to-head pretty good on, one of those occasions. And then we play another game and you got 2 guys that you could say, I could trust this guy starting an SEC game and this guy. So pitching depth is a strength for us going into the regional for sure.
At South Carolina and since in practice, what have you seen from Chase Dollander that's really led to his increase in his game and in his productivity?
Yeah, I would be curious what his answer has been to you all on that. I'm sure you asked him, but just freed up, whether you call it being handcuffed by certain either mental thoughts or maybe there's some physical things there too. There have been a couple weeks where he doesn't feel 100% health-wise. due to illness. But just freeing himself from things that probably are a weight on the shoulders. We use that as a cliche for a reason, but it literally can be like you're carrying a backpack with a couple plates in it. And so you walk around campus as a student, if you got a 10-pound weight in the back of your backpack, you're not going to want to walk very far. You can handle it for a little bit. And so I use that as a analogy for how I've seen Doe just through my own eyes. And you see him getting more and more free mentally and physically, and it means a little bit more upbeat tempo, a little bit more upbeat and better presence or body language, and ultimately it means better stuff too. And the criteria for judging an outing can be different than everybody, but again, save from the outing where he was sick, I've kind of seen this out of him, which is the way you want your team and your players to go.
Tony, he actually credited a mental conditioning coach for helping him with the expectations and handling, adversity, tough outings and things like that. Can you kind of expand on using that in your program to help your guys?
Yeah, I mean, I just spoke with somebody on the phone, and you're recruiting, so I don't ever want to sound like a used car salesman, but you gotta pitch or put forward what you think are the strengths of your place. And because we're at a university like this, we have a football stadium where there's over 100,000 people. I don't know if you guys have to, but most of the people have to pay to get inside there. Do you guys have to pay? Okay, good. We got to pay for a new baseball stadium, so we might have to change some things around here. But, the nature of our fan base allows, and the quality of the university, and of course now Danny's kind of an expert at fundraising and moving forward with facilities. We got everything you could ever want with technology. We don't like to cram it down everybody's throat. Nutritionists, you talk about the mental game. It could be mentality away from the field too. It's all available for our guys, but it's like a buffet. If I go to an Italian buffet, I'm trying everything. But maybe for whatever reason, my dad only wants to try, spaghetti and meatballs. So you don't have to use it all, but if you got self-awareness and you're in an area where you're struggling, maybe to put on weight, you got to use a nutritionist. And I think it says a lot about Doe as an individual to admit to that, because step one is recognizing it, and then the next step takes a lot more courage, and it's asking for help. There's no one that's been an athlete before that's any good that doesn't have pride. And when you got pride, sometimes that can block, things, that could maybe be a benefit to you from you kind of expanding yourself. And feeling vulnerable is something that, again, no athlete or coach wants to do. But again, I think if you've got the self-recognition that you're not what you need to be in an area, and you step outside of yourself and go seek out help, that is huge. And that's as good of an example as you can set. And it ends up, making you a better person and a better player.
Take a few more with Ben, Ryan, and Eric. Casey in the back.
What is your philosophy when it comes to pitching plans in the postseason? Are you somebody that likes to leave the rotation as is and not toy with it, or do you try to avoid looking ahead to if we win, we'll throw this guy, if we lose, we'll throw this guy? Do you try to avoid the tinkering?
Well, I think pride is a word I just brought up. Coach Anderson's got more pride than anybody can imagine in every single inning or every single pitch. It's meticulous. I don't know how he does it, being executed and being as good as it can be. So I drive him crazy sometimes when we maybe think outside of the box or do different things to involve guys or keep guys developing or, try and keep guys fresh. His goal is to win every single pitch, and with my duties, I handle it a little bit differently during the season. But as you get going, kind of how we've done over the last few weeks, you start to narrow your focus really just to how can we, present the best opportunity for us to win. And I think the best opportunity to win the game that's in front of you is the thing to do. And then you got to scramble, win or lose any postseason game. At Hoover it's different this year, but last year, win or lose, and you come up with a new plan that's specific just to that next game. I think to get too far ahead can cause problems in the game that's right in front of you. And again, that's kind of our goal, is just win the game that's right in front of you. And you want a group of guys that are down there that constantly have in the back of their mind, like, if you need me to handle this, I can. Coach McCann, is just our video coordinator, I say jokingly. He's about as good of a pitching coach across the country as you can imagine. It's fun to watch him and Frank work together. And he tells a story on a Tuesday, his Friday night guy, they just keep going extra innings. And when he was at Northwestern State, the guy just went and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You need me to end this game?" And he ran down there, put on his spikes, and came in and ended the game. It's that time of year.
You mentioned Austin Knight a minute ago, but I was curious where you've seen him grow the most in the 3 years since he's left this program.
Well, when we went over there a couple years ago, during a midweek, he made some plays at third base, but he did that here. I mean, he was capable of being a good defender anywhere on the infield. We used him at first base and then came in naturally as a shortstop, second. So he was right in that mix of Trey and Jarrell, his buddy Max Ferguson, that could really kind of play anywhere. So it's not like he hasn't improved in those areas, but he always had that capability of playing anywhere on the field, and it had pinch run for us a couple times, so athletic enough to be a good base runner. And then hitting, everybody evolves each year. You tinker a little bit with stance and things like that, but he's an aggressive hitter. He's a guy who wants to hit. And, we've seen that, in his time here. And then again, that one occasion we drove over there and played on a Tuesday. And then since, you start to break down video or there's stuff available, I'm sure those guys have checked out. That aggression stays there. So for him and everyone else, it's really just about getting older and getting more mature. And that's kind of what our game has become. I don't want to say old man's game because we're talking 22, 23-year-olds, but shortened draft, COVID, transfer portal, it certainly has made it to where you maybe don't have to be older in age, but you better have a level of maturity to you, and you better be as physical as a guy like Luke Lipsius that is an old man now. Old, retired, and married. Probably making money, too.
We'll go Eric and Casey and then finish with Ray. I'll go with Casey and then finish with Ray.
Knoxville native Cam Fisher is the home run leader for Charlotte. Do you guys have any plans for shutting him down or approaching his game?
Not to this point, other than, I know where he trained. I think, again, you talk about maturity. It can kind of come in a bunch of different ways. And physically, I know where he trains. And with Crazy Charlie, he's been with him at times and has transformed his body into one that is capable of doing the things you're talking about. So he needs to be on Father's Day thankful because he's got good genes and a good mindset from his dad, who from day one when we got hired, if I'm not mistaken, he was already committed before we got hired to the first university that he attended. But ever since then, his dad has been helpful to us in the community. He's been fun to talk to at the park, within the rules, and he's a good baseball mind. So, I joke about Father's Day because he got good genes and a good mindset from his dad. So, good family, and it's good to see him having a good year. And it goes without saying you prefer him to not have too good of a year against us.
Rick?
Tony, did you get to see Ben Joyce last night?
I did. I was very upset I did not get to see it in person. It kind of worked out cool where he was in the Midwest because Zach asked to travel and the family scrambles to California, which is great for them. I didn't want us to go out there as a staff and not see him pitch. We put all this homework into it, and it was pretty much set in stone. He was going to throw yesterday or last night. But with us finding out where we go and all this planning, it would have been too much of a scramble. But his brother was on the group me sending messages to the guys, and he was juiced. And watching that ball move around, it was pretty evident that the big man was juiced too. And, to kind of come in and then it not go well for a second or get a base runner and then kind of do what he did speaks volumes about how he just keeps maturing and how good the stuff is. And it was pretty cool listening to the announcers because they were very complimentary, as they should. Hard work. Anyone, you see it with our program in a bunch of different ways, but don't judge a book by its cover. You never know someone's backstory, and anyone who follows him outside of this community might jump to the conclusion, well, he's big and strong and it's easy for him. He's 100% created I almost say the thing, which is more of a compliment. The thing that he's become has come with work ethic. And I've said it before, but I can't stress it enough. I mentioned it to the guys. He has created the individual that he's become, and I don't see him slowing down because I know that the work is not going to slow down.
And that was Tony Vitello previewing the Clemson Regional and talking about his former pupil, Ben Joyce. making his major league debut. So that was some good stuff there. Ben Joyce, a part of that program last year, and did an outstanding job during his time with Tony Vitello's program. And as we know, they are headed to the Clemson Regional. Clemson, the number 4 national seed. They are under Eric Bakich, who did a great job just a few years ago, nearly winning the national championship, I think in 2019. Won game 1, but Vandy came back to take the next 2. He has now moved from Michigan to Clemson and has them rolling, and they are doing an outstanding job, no doubt about it. A big factor this weekend will be Chase Dolander, who's probably going to be a high draft pick in the coming weeks when they have the MLB draft. He'll be on the bump for Tennessee, but will they hold him out for a potential matchup with Clemson? We will ask that of our next guest, and that's going to be Sports Radio WNML 99.1 Morning Drive co-host Vince Ferrara, also a part of the Vols IMG Baseball Radio Network. We're going to speak with him about this upcoming regional and this matchup for Tennessee baseball when we come back after this break on the Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared. Stay with us.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
When I chose a garage door company, I did my homework. I needed Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. They have a 5-star Google rating. I checked their reviews and liked what their customers had to say. Precision Overhead Garage Door has lifetime warranty packages. Same-day service if I call before 2 p.m. If they can't make it the same day, my service call fee the next day is waived. They did a 25-point safety inspection on the door and operator. Now that's peace of mind. Residential, commercial, and gate services. Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. Call 256-400-4500.
Guys, music can inspire us. Let the concert quality sound system at Zoom Indoor Cycling help push you harder than you ever thought possible. No matter if you're a beginner or an experienced rider, you'll ride top-of-the-line Stages SC3 bikes as the most talented instructors in North Alabama motivate you to reach your goals.
You can do it!
Zone Indoor Cycling is this week's Zone deal. Get a $100 certificate for just $50. Get yours now at 977ESPN.com. $2 specialty shoe rental per ride for new riders.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
With us today, Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville.
When we evaluate a patient and they indeed have significant venous disease, most third-party payers, private insurance, Medicare, require us to treat every patient conservatively at least 90 days. Conservative treatment includes increasing ambulation, elevation of the legs, and the wearing of compression stockings. It's very common for folks to come see us in March or April wanting to have their veins fixed before they go into swimsuits starting in June. When we see someone in March or April, they're going to require at least 90 days of conservative treatment before we can even go to the insurance carrier to get permission to treat their veins. So if you think you have a venous problem, now is the time to come in and get a free screening so we can determine whether or not you need something evaluated. If you have a vein problem or you think you may have a vein problem, now's the time to contact us at bestveincarehuntsville.com.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D-Squared, Drew DeArmond, and we've been talking Tennessee baseball. We heard from Tony Vitella, who spoke to the media yesterday, previewing that Clemson regional that they're going to be a part of. Probably, I think they're the most dangerous 2 seed, them and Texas A&M. Of course, I'm biased, both from the SEC. The SEC getting 10 teams in, but Tennessee, I know they didn't get the results they wanted against A&M in that 7-10 matchup, but the second half of the season, their performance has been much, much better than what we sort of expected out of the Vols as they were ranked in the top 5 in the preseason. And really what matters now is how healthy you are, what kind of run you're on. Certainly Clemson's on a great run. I think they've won 16 in a row. But the Tennessee Vols are going to be very confident going into this Clemson regional, and we're going to break that all down with the co-host of Morning Sports Talk, and that's from 5 to 8 our time, 6 to 9 on your radio dial on Sports Radio WNML 991, the sports animal in Knoxville. He's been a great friend of ours. He's also a part of the Vols IMG radio network, and that's Vince Ferrara, and he's been kind enough to join us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline this morning. How you doing, Vince?
I'm good, Drew. How are you?
Doing well. What about this regional, man? What about this draw Tennessee got? I know Clemson's red hot, but and it was brought up to Tony Vitella when they did not win the A&M game to kick off the tournament. They were the defending tournament champs. That they could kind of use this as a reset and recharge. You can look at it one of two ways. And so Tennessee, what kind of shape are they in going into this regional against a red hot Clemson team?
Well, certainly it's very interesting. You mentioned how hot Clemson is, 21 of 22, 16-game winning streak, second longest in the country coming in, and they haven't lost a series since they started winning only 2 of their first 7 series. So playing at a hot level, so they are going to be obviously the toughest challenge. What is interesting as a number 4 national seed, but what's interesting is everybody else also. The 4 seed is Lipscomb from Nashville, who Tennessee beat 10-0 earlier this year. And then also the 3 seed, who they start out playing on Friday at 6 p.m., is Charlotte. And there's definitely some connections between the 2 schools. Andrew Lindsay, who could very well get the ball, he has been the Friday night guy, could very well get the ball in that Charlotte game. Tony Vitella, Tennessee hasn't announced that yet, but that's his former school where he pitched. Now, it was a couple of years ago, but he was a Friday night guy for Charlotte. So there's that intrigue. Also, they have a former Vol on their team, and one of their better hitters in Austin Knight, who was at Tennessee briefly and then transferred, and that was 3 years ago. So last time Tennessee played Charlotte was in 2021, and Tennessee went to Charlotte and lost 9-0. And so that was kind of a wake-up call. They ended up getting to the College World Series, obviously, so it all ended up fine. But then another connection is the leading home run hitter in the country, and for Charlotte is Cam Fisher, who is from Knoxville, played at Hardin Valley Academy. So there's definitely familiarity between the two. And just sort of, it's always cool to see kind of those little side stories. Even if you go to Eric Bakich, the coach at Clemson, who, as you know, led Michigan to the championship series a couple of years ago. Well, he was a former Vanderbilt assistant, and his name was very prominent when Tony Vitella was hired on those coaching hot boards as a potential candidate to Tennessee. So in that ballpark, another aspect of it, very similar in a lot of ways in how it plays to Lindsey Nelson Stadium, so that could be a plus. There's a lot of other intrigue, but that's some of the overall things I think that are interesting.
Well, come on now. The NCAA wouldn't do that, would they? They wouldn't set up all those storylines for everybody to follow, all the connections.
Yeah, and look, there's some more obvious ones. Drew, I'll take the storylines over sending the same teams to the same regional year after year.
Auburn and Florida State.
Absolutely, that was the first one that came to mind. Absolutely,
Exactly.
They're like a lock together, and whatever Florida school there is, USF has gone to. They're not there now, but they've gone to Gainesville a bunch of times. So if you're a Florida school and you're not a top 3 seed or in from the SEC, you're getting sent to Gainesville. So I like that they change it up some. And look, they could have kept Lipscomb in Nashville again, which they've done before, but they sent them away. I think that's a good thing for them. They get to experience the NCAA tournament versus just, driving to the ballpark, and it's just not the same. So I like that. And real quick, you mentioned the rest, Tony Vitello, and how they could get the reset. It'll be 9 days in between that game from Hoover to today. So not only it allows them to mentally get recharged and reset physically for bumps and bruises, and they did have a couple of guys that were, but now also you can do whatever you want with your starting pitching.
Yeah,
it's so long. You can play matchups. You can do whatever you want. You can play at TBD and go one at a time, which a number of schools will do based on just trying to win that one game and then move forward. So it gives them a lot of options, and as we've seen, you don't have to have NCAA tournament success or end-of-the-year regular season success to win in the postseason. Everybody's new, so the road record and all that kind of stuff, maybe it'll play out, but maybe it won't mean a stinking thing. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess that's the one storyline that people will still talk about is Tennessee's road record. But, again, everything kind of resets now. It's about matchups. How do you see this regional and this matchup? We know Chase DeLander is going to be a really high draft pick in a few weeks. But do you see Tony Vitello throwing him in game one, or would he potentially save him for a matchup very likely with the host Clemson?
Well, honestly, I don't know that they look at it as, okay, Dolander is our number one. We have to have him for a specific game, because Andrew Lindsey has been the most consistent of the starters. Now, the upside and him pitching to his potential, it's Chase Dolander there. We actually got a chance to talk to him earlier this week as well, and I asked him about his fastball. His fastball is his money pitch. I mean, everything builds off of that, up in the zone. When he elevates it, guys think they can catch up to it, and they can't. When he leaves it middle and low, that's when it's a little straighter and it's more hittable. So when he can spot that fastball, then all of his secondary pitches play in. And one of the things that he needed to be better at this year was better with his secondary stuff, his third and fourth pitches. That's what you need on the major league level. You can't just be a two-pitch guy for the most part. And so it's about the fastball. So he's been dialed in there. And then the mental game, too. He had so many of those preseason expectations, best pitcher in the country, best pitcher since. So all those things he has been, better able to handle as the year has gone on and coming off of the Friday start. So it may not be. They may just see from a matchup standpoint, Charlotte versus a Clemson, what might be best. The thing that, from a matchup standpoint, Charlotte, it doesn't overwhelm you in terms of numbers. Probably their best individual strength is home runs. They've hit 90. That's 34th in the nation. Nothing else, other than, and they do walk a fair amount as well. So offensively, they'll be a challenge. Lipscomb also hits a lot of home runs. They're 20th in the country in home runs. They've struggled at some in high strikeouts and things like that, but they hit for power when they're on, and that's another team that you just can't overlook if you're not playing right away from home. And then with Clemson does some things that Tennessee's had some issues with. Clemson really likes to run, and Tennessee's had issues containing the run games of opponents. There's been plenty of teams that haven't run a whole lot. Arkansas, Texas A&M come to mind, and then suddenly they're stealing bases left and right against Tennessee. And that's because with all the power arms that Tennessee has, a lot of right-handers, other than getting some pickoffs, they're slow to the plate, and they don't. their catchers haven't thrown a ton of guys out. Now, Cal Stark has been better. He's thrown a few guys out later in the year, but overall, teams see that as an opportunity to pounce. Clemson does do that well and often. And then Clemson plays really good defense, whereas Tennessee has played maybe at times, especially on the road, subpar defense. I think they're not as good overall defensively as they were a year ago, but I think they have good individual defenders. And when they defend, they pitch better, and I think all of it is connected. You look at the teams, Drew, you watch a lot of baseball. Teams that are making, you saw this with Vanderbilt and Hoover.
Yeah.
Teams that are making diving great plays on defense, it's like you get the feeling that they are so locked in they're going to win the game, and then they carry it over offensively and everything. Then it psychs up their pitchers, and those are the teams that win, the ones that are playing elite defense. And Clemson overall has done that. So those are a couple of things with them. Their ballpark plays small, similar to like Tennessee, but they haven't hit a ton of home runs. They've hit 59 compared to Tennessee's 114. So they're going to be a little bit more of a line drive, average type of team, and then they can really pitch also. So that's a positive or something that will be a challenge for Tennessee as well.
Well, I remember back in 2019 that Bakic's Michigan team could really pitch. I mean, they were really solid, and then I was in Hoover. Vanderbilt just really. The last 3 games, they averaged 10 runs a game, and I know that they had a couple of 100 and a couple of guys shut down for the tournament, but when they're scoring 10 runs, they've still got enough arms with Tim Corbin, and when you're swinging the bats like that, and that's what could happen with Tennessee. If you get on a roll, it can definitely it can be like an avalanche, which is you can get to playing really good baseball and go on a run.
Well, if you look at the games this year for Tennessee, and you know this, Drew, when Tennessee wins, a lot of times it's when they're having explosive games.
Against Vandy. They swept Vandy that way,
absolutely, especially after they rallied in the first game, which with the 4 solo home runs, including 2 in the bottom of the ninth, that really kind of relaxed them, and then they were able to build off of that, started getting hits with runners in scoring position. But when they're good, they're explosive, and they're tough to handle because the pitching has been there all season. I mean, you look at their pitching numbers, they're still top 5, top 6 nationally in pretty much every major category. So, including the ballpark that they hit all those home runs in, they also pitch really well in there also. So, so if you are really good offensively, especially to start games, and I think you're right, that was the difference maker for Vandy. When I saw Vandy firsthand, and when I've seen them on TV this year, that was my question, was Vandy offensively, especially in the middle of the order, once you got past Bradfield and Schreck and those guys. Tennessee's similar. The way they can pitch, if they can not be bad defensively, and they can hit, especially getting off to good starts and leads and forcing teams to play a little bit out of character and play catch-up when Tennessee's pitching staff playing from ahead, that's a huge advantage for them. The thing is, their first inning has been one of their tougher innings. For Dolander, who's given up almost 50% of his total runs this year have come in the first inning. It's been wild. And a lot of times he's dominant after that. So quick starts, very important for this Tennessee team.
No question about it. And then you said that Tony Vitello even mentioned it being big and physical. And this is another big physical Tennessee team. They've hit 114 home runs. It's not a bad hitter's park at Clemson. It seems to be a pretty good matchup for them offensively.
I think so. I think Tennessee certainly has the bats now. They got to get Blake Burke going. It's been a minute since he's really been explosive and getting to show off that big left-handed swing. There's been times where guys have been in and out of short stints of not being hot, but there's capability 1 through 9. When they were cooking in the second half, or they were 11-4 in SEC play, they were a threat 1 through 9 in the lineup, not only in average but in leaving the yard. They've shared 2 guys in a DH role. Griffin Merritt, the Cincinnati transfer, has moved back up into the middle of the order, hitting oftentimes behind Blake Burke. And then also freshman Dylan Dreiling has been outstanding when he's got a chance to play. Jared Dickey can really hit. Christian Moore has pop in his bat in the middle of the order. So there's a lot of things. Maui Ahuna is much better. The Kansas transfer, one of the most coveted transfers in the portal in the offseason. He's in a much better spot offensively than he was, where he was kind of pressing earlier in the year. So they've got the potential to be good 1 through 9 and do it with power. And if you can start leaving the yard from the bottom of the order, Christian Scott's another one that is hitting a lot better than he used to, their right fielder. So if you can hit leave the yard 1 through 9, that makes them even tougher. You can't pitch around certain guys. So I do think that it's a good matchup if Tennessee is playing well and sharp, especially defensively.
Yeah, no doubt. And as you said, good defense can carry over to the offensive approach and the success for Tennessee. Ultimately, as you said, defensively can kind of set the tone. How do you see the matchup with Charlotte overall?
Well, I think some of it will depend on who Tennessee pitches and how they handle it. Is it Andrew Lindsey, and how does he handle going up against his former team?
True.
I think he's got the demeanor, and having talked to him as often and asking his teammates about him, I think he is just such a chill, flatliner, emotion type of guy that I think he'll handle it really, really well. Chase Dolander said, there's nothing rattles him. He said, trust me, I've tried to rattle him just to see what he was made of and if he could bounce back. And he's like, it's never worked. So I think Charlotte, even though they're probably they can hit home runs and they're competitive on the mound, I think Tennessee is the better team. And just depending on how they play, if Tennessee plays well, Tennessee should win that game and go into the winner's bracket. It is so tough to come out of the loser's bracket, and this or Women's College World Series or College World Series, however, is so hard to come out of the loser's bracket. But Tennessee has the arms that if anyone could come back from one loss, it would be Tennessee, because they do have a lot of options they can go to. They have guys in the pen that aren't regular starters that they could put out there and win, or maybe piggyback 2 guys and get through most of a ball game. And then you have Chase Burns. He's another key, is can you close out games? In the second half, he's been, since he moved to the bullpen, except for South Carolina, he's been absolutely lights out. He's another guy that's going to be high on draft boards and projections, mock drafts for next year as a top 10 pick. So he's got massive swing and miss stuff. So if he is on point in the back end, they can close out a ball game after a really good start, man, Tennessee is going to be tough to handle.
Yeah, they are. You got to win the first game, though. It's just so tough if you fall into that loser's bracket. And before I let you go, we got to talk about Josiah Jordan-James real quick. I know there were some people thinking he wouldn't come back, but he did. He pulls out of the draft and he comes back to Tennessee. I know, they lost Julian Phillips. He's staying in. He was in the portal anyway. But how big is it getting Josiah Jordan-James back?
I think it is big. Where he fits in, I think it's still TBD, because they're actually over in scholarship limits now.
Interesting.
So when B.J. Edwards hit the portal and went to SMU, then you thought, all right, this is how it works, because then now you're at your 13 scholarships. Now they're back over. So who's going to go? Is someone going to be a walk-on? I mean, some people have pointed to Jordan Gainey, who's a son of Justin Gainey, assistant coach, and maybe he'll come over and be sort of a preferred walk-on because his dad's here. But some others think that no, they won't do that. But somebody would have to go if they're not going to make somebody a walk-on. So that's one dynamic. And then also his versatility, the way he can defend, the way he can impact the newcomers, especially young players. He said that was part of his decision, was he really liked the new pieces that they brought in. There's a lot of new on this team, so how does it all fit together? And my biggest question is and how it's going to work is, does Rick Barnes and his staff adjust to the new players? Dalton Connect from Colorado State is a slasher. gets to the rim, mid-range game, a lot of one-on-one type of stuff, can really shoot. Is he now just going to be asked to be a different player and blend in and focus on defense first and not be the player he was at Northern Colorado, not Colorado State, Northern Colorado? And then he's going to be like the other transfers they've had who have not been anything like where they were before. So how Tennessee and Rick Barnes uses all of these really good players, the big question. I don't know if James will start, honestly, with the talent that they have and how it plays out. But he could, and then how they use these guys to be more offensive and not be offensively challenged. Big question, but they got some good players. Still TBD to me on how it comes together.
Great stuff from Vince Ferrara, and as we said, you can hear him now on Sports Talk each and every morning from, as we said, 6 to 9 Eastern, 5 to 8 Central. Doing a great job Monday through Friday, and also part of the Vol IMG Radio Network. Really appreciate it, my friend. And again, continued success. Let everybody know how to follow you in your coverage of Vol baseball this weekend.
Yeah, appreciate it. At Vince Sports on Twitter, VINCE Sports. Not in Clemson. My partner John Wilkerson handling it all on the Vol Network. And you never know, Drew. You know how it is. Tennessee's one of the higher 2 seeds. If Auburn doesn't come out of their regional, say it's Southern Miss or somebody else, Tennessee could potentially host a super regional.
They could.
We'll see. Those things have happened before where 2 seeds get to host. But you can go to our website at 991thesportsanimal.com. As you know, nobody covers the SEC spring meetings better than Jimmy Himes.
No.
Jimmy's had he sent back 28 audio pieces already of interviews, 16 of them one-on-ones, including a bunch with head football coaches in the league, which, just other people aren't doing or getting. So if you go to our website, 991thesportsanimal.com, SEC spring meetings, you can get to all of it on one page there. Click on it. You can see the feed and just scroll through and listen to everything. You're welcome to any of that if you want to play it on the show also. But just tremendous content there and insight from a bunch of head football coaches and ADs and media members around the league. Again, at 991thesportsanimal.com.
Pretty good for a semi-retired guy. Good job, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. He's just picking his gigs, but he's working hard for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, have a great weekend, Vince. Appreciate it.
All right. You too. Thanks, Drew.
We're going to go on a break and come back and wind down this Thursday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D-Squared.
The Blitz has been called.
With over 100 F-150s to choose from and available financing as low as 0%, now is the perfect time to put one in your driveway. It's Truck Month at Woody Anderson Ford. Hi, Bobby White back again, inviting you to come on in for the best selection of F-150s we've had in a while. And if you find one that you like, there is no payment for 90 days. Also during Truck Month, not only do you get 0% financing for up to 36 months, but we've also got 2.9% financing for 5 years on remaining 22 models with your good credit through Ford Motor Credit. This offer ends April 4th. And don't forget, we make it really easy for you to trade in and trade up on a Ford Blue Advantage Gold Certified or Blue Certified pre-owned vehicle. Great warranties, 24-hour roadside assistance, and you take it home with a full tank of gas and a fresh oil change. Hurry on in for Truck Month. 0% financing, no payments for 90 days, and over 100 F-150s to choose from. Woody Anderson Ford, hope to see you soon.
Welcome back as we wind down this Thursday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio in this abbreviated week. Big thanks to Vince Ferrara of the Sports Animal 99.1 in Knoxville, Tennessee, talking some Vol baseball, previewing their regional trip to Clemson to face Eric Backich's number 1 seed Clemson Tigers, but they've got to take care of the 3 seed Charlotte first. Certainly, Vol is very capable, though, and we talked a little basketball, too, with Josiah Jordan-James and his return to Rick Barnes' squad. So great stuff. And don't forget, later today, Captain Cool, John Abraham, and the Bandyman Betty Lowry will bring you quality sports talk from 2 to 4 on the afternoon Blitz. And download our app, our Blitz Sports Radio app, so you can hear this show, the Recruiting Blitz with D-Squared, from 9 to 10 a.m. each Monday through Friday. Also, and if you haven't, download the 97.7 The Zone app, our sister station. You will be able, in about an hour's time, to hear the University of Alabama taking the field in Oklahoma City, as this is their 14th trip under Hall of Fame coach Patrick Murphy, and they will be taking the field against the Tennessee Vols later today, the 5-seed Alabama against the 4-seed Tennessee. So there'll be more Vol action against the Crimson Tide as Alabama looking to make a run in OKC. But that will be on 97.7 The Zone. Really, everybody, I appreciate your support of our streaming channel, the Blitz Sports Radio. Hope you enjoyed the show today. And we also heard from Tony Vitello. We are going to talk some Kentucky with Justin Rowland tomorrow as their basketball roster's taking shape with Oscar Tshiebwe staying in the draft. Also some other roster movement there, and we'll continue to monitor that. But everybody have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you on Friday at 9 a.m., everyone.
Aaron was elected to the